Welcome to Razors. The Razors. Welcome to Hawkins Razor. My name is Jill, and this is Blazing Cat for Fridays, where we do a cold read through of the best news aggregate for an unobscured eye on current events. I'd like to thank Blazing Cat for posting these live streams and for his tireless commitment to publishing his site every day coming up on 20 years in February. Please support his site. I'd also like to thank all my followers and subscribers for following and subscribing. It's outstanding that you're here and watching this show. If you're watching this on replay, please leave some comments down below and we will give you an answer. We're streaming on 3 platforms. Let's confirm that because last couple of times we've been having some issues with X, and this week we decided to hijack the NAP broadcast stream key, and it looks like we are live on X. Outstanding. Okay, so we're good to go. After the Blazing Cat for Fridays at 10:30, we are back on the NAP, the no answer period, where we cover the question period, prefaced by a review of much of the same thing here, except a whole bunch of different stuff. Also, today's going to be a little different because we're going to be reviewing some Defense Committee footage prior to the question period, as long as we can probably get some more insanity that's been happening, because it's like a fire hose of stuff. And that's why Blazing Catfur has his site. And there goes my other screen. What is going on today? Hello? Give me my screen, Mo. Come on. What? It's like every time I go to have a program, something goes wrong. Okay, so um, after the live stream, there we go. I think we got everything. Let's just get on with the show. So there we go. Is the cold read through. So we'll just go straight to the site. Outstanding. There's our little post. We'll just wait for this to use my slow internet to populate the screen. And again, this is just to prove this is a cold read through. I've not looked at this site. There we go. That's much better. Hello. Sorry for all the screen stuff. There we go. Whiskey Tango Foxtrot. Here's a post by Andy No from X, Minneapolis. Nick Shirley encountered a masked far-left Antifa type of activist who says he supports whites being robbed for reparations. A black person tried to grab his phone, but the leftist refuses to hand it over, saying he needs it. This is the kind of insanity that the world is coming to. And you can see this in the changes to the laws that the liberals have done right here in Canada, whereby making crime something, it's just the social aspect of the change that we're trying to bring about, right? It's you're a white person, you don't really need that phone. This person needs it more. This kind of cultural Marxism, where some people are always more equal than others. I don't know. I seem to say this every single day. Palestine action hunger strike now threatens activists' lives. Isn't that the whole point of a hunger strike? Prisoners on hunger strike while awaiting trial on allegations relating to Palestine action could die if David Lammy refuses to meet to discuss their treatment, their lawyer says. 2 of the 8 prisoners have been refusing food for more than 5 weeks, and 5 have already been admitted to hospital. Well, that's an ethical and moral choice on their own. But if you're forcing somebody else to meet you as part of your hunger strike, that is, in a sense, a form of extortion. There are better ways to protest. Now, and of course, if you're going to protest for a cause, at least protest for a cause that isn't steeped in a history of violence and hate, because that is not going to really help your cause, except by those other people who also follow your cause of hate. Whiskey Tango Foxtrot. To all of the idiots out there who say diversity is our strength, please watch this. This is what inviting thousands of legal and illegal Somali Muslims into Minneapolis actually looks like. Must watch to the end. John Fitzgerald explains what it's like to live here. Let's see if this opens.
What a lady!
Fuck ICE! Fuck ICE! Fuck Donald Trump! Don't show them anything!
Get the fuck out of here. More whistles. You need to leave. You're not welcome. Get the fuck out of here.
I thought everyone was welcome. I thought everyone was welcome.
You with ICE?
I thought everyone.
This is us! We are citizens! We are here!
Where are you from? Where are you from? That's what happens when you let the third world in. Spitting at officers. Spitting at officers, blocking traffic.
Hey, nigga! Shoot, man! Nigga, I'm illegal, nigga! Bitch ass nigga!
Shit, I just get them out of here. Make America great again. I'm John Fitzgerald, and I am a MAGA. Make America great again. Get them the hell out of here. Get them the hell out of here.
You hear the way these guys are talking to him.
Yeah, no, I want them gone. I want them out of here. They are the most unfriendly. We live right across the street from them. And there's been times where this whole cul-de-sac has been completely lined with Mercedes, BMWs.
This is how they talk. Second generation.
Come here! Hey! I'm right here though!
Unbelievable. This is the problem. You got the second, third generation here. You invited them in, invite the illegals in, and then they have kids that hate this country, are taught to hate this country. And then you got neighbors living right across the street that have to deal with it.
There might be repercussions for me because, but 15, 20, 25 know where I live. I ain't afraid.
Yeah.
Not backing down.
If you could say something to President Trump, to Tom Holland, what would you tell him?
President Trump, start with Ilhan Omar, get her out of here and drag all of this business here, get them out of here. Yeah, we're Americans. Yeah.
So I noticed you've got a for sale sign out here. How much of that decision has to do with the illegals and the Somalis that are here in the neighborhood?
Oh, a lot. It's a major part of our reason why we want to get out of here. I'm wondering, it's been a little over a year now that we've been on the market. Can't sell, hasn't sold. I have to ask, why not? This is a beautiful neighborhood, except for that.
With your tax dollars.
Yeah, it's my tax dollars and your tax dollars and anybody who's listening to this and who sees this.
And that is how cultural Marxism defeats and destroys Western civilization, slice by slice, like this. And the only way that they can push their agenda is through intimidation. We see it in every aspect of the far left. We've been seeing it in every aspect right now, especially in committee meetings here in Canada, of which we cover in the other channel. Alberta Treaty 8 chiefs demand pause on pipeline agreement, threaten legal action. Oh, so much for that MOU, eh? Chiefs from Treaty 8 First Nations of Alberta are calling for a pause on the pipeline memorandum of understanding until they consulted and sign off on a potential project. And they're threatening legal action if that doesn't happen. Chiefs spoke in Ottawa Thursday, decrying that they said was a lack of consultation with First Nations before Prime Minister Mark Carney and Alberta Premier Daniel Smith agreed to the MOU in November. We have formally notified the Prime Minister. Any further attempt by Canada, Alberta, or industry to move ahead without us will result in immediate action, Grand Chief Trevor McCready said. Well, from some other footage that I saw of this, they referred to the bitumen as tar sands. So they're still using the old world narrative of environmentalism and climate catastrophe, which is basically all they're basing their threats on. And of course, their threats are not without some merit, I guess, in a sense. If you look at what happened in BC, when BC adapted the UNDRIP resolution as part of their laws, which has resulted to the issue in Cowichan, where people are just losing their land rights. And this has emboldened them now across Canada in their land grab. So it's very easy for to stop this. It's just don't give them any payments. I mean, they are being funded by the taxpayer in order to stop the taxpayer from getting ahead in life. And they are in a minority, regardless of how they would like to treat this. In the end, it's going to come down to how much money they can keep using against their own legal team to fight their own government, to fight their own prosperity. I'm sure there'll be plenty of other members that will come out within the indigenous community that'll be saying, we're in favor for this, we're the majority, these clowns are not. Because that seems to be what happens all the time. In the end, once you start laying the chips out, oh, you like your transfer payments, hey? You like all that free money every year? Where do you think that money comes from? It comes from industry. And if we don't have any industry, well, it's not going to come from the government because the government only prints that stuff. Whiskey, Tango, Foxtrot. Oh, for freak's sakes, says Fancy Pants. Which is, by the way, this is Blazing Cat Fur's handle right here. He used to have a Twitter handle, Blazing Cat Fur. And then, of course, during the COVIDity stupidity years, he got shut down for being racist. And then we haven't been able to get the account back. Well, when I say we, I mean some of us who are friends with Blazing Cat Fur, would send a post, hey, Elon, how about maybe this account? You should try that again, see if that'll come up. Never know. American students are being taught Santa Claus is a gay black man. Oh, come on. Everybody knows that Santa Claus was a Norwegian high on mushrooms sliding in through the chimney hole in a yurt, if you go back far enough. Students in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, are being taught that Santa Claus is a gay black man married to a white dude. It's a storybook present to presented to second and third graders. Oh, such theater. I can't wait for the play. Better yet, I can't wait for the Disney movie. Child bride spared execution in Iran after blood money is paid. Now, isn't that always the way? Extortion. Always comes down to extortion, making somebody else wealthy. That's how you can tell they are a reptile in a human skin with no soul. A child bride who was due to be executed this month in Iran over the death of her husband has had her life spared by his parents, who were paid the equivalent of £70,000 in exchange for their forgiveness. Goli Kukan, 25, has been on death row in Gorgan Central Prison in northern Iran for the past 7 years. At the age of 18, she was arrested over allegedly participating in the killing of her abusive husband, Alireza Abil, in May 2018 and sentenced to qisas, retribution in kind. Oh, I've never heard this term before. I don't recall this from my studies in Islam close to 2 decades ago. Have to look that up later. Taxpayer dollars fund crack pipes, drug paraphernalia classified as harm reduction tools, and federal officials confirmed. Yeah, that was an interesting revelation in committee, but not surprising to those of us who've been following this for a while. Weren't there like vending machines right outside the emergency areas in some hospitals in Canada that were like dispensing drug paraphernalia for free? I think. So this is not you. The federal health department has confirmed to MPs of the health committee that taxpayer dollars fund crack pipes, another drug paraphernalia, under Health Canada's harm reduction programs, after saying this wasn't the case in October. Yeah. Sure, there's a lot of alcoholics out there to be like, how come I can't get any free booze? Assistant Deputy Health Minister Kendall Weber initially told the House of Commons Health Committee that funded provided by Health Canada or the Public Health Agency of Canada, PHAC, or as I like to call them, Deaf Canada, was not being used to purchase crack pipes when questioning Conservative MP and health critic Dan Messier on October 2nd. Wow, there's been quite a few revelations in committee this past week, and all the lies are coming out. And we always tell this. If you don't tell lies, you don't have to keep track of them. You just stick to the truth. Life is so easy. But you notice that life has not been getting easier for the past 10 years because we're ruled by a bunch of liars. Albers, not all ideas are equal. Neither are all cultures. Indeed. And that's the problems with diversity. As a student of history, I am by the rise and fall of civilizations on this small celestial body we call Earth. Oh, indeed. Empires have come and gone, kingdoms have risen in confidence and collapsed in corruption, and today, whether we care to admit it or not, we stand at the edge of the possible unraveling of what may well be the greatest civilization humanity has ever produced, the modern West, that we know of. There are a lot of ruins on this planet, and the planet is cyclical, and that's all dictated by the sun, right? Sun stays hot, we have life on the planet. Sun goes cold, everything turns into a frozen ball. Ice sheets move around, tectonic plate shifts. A billion years goes by, planet warms up again, you get some more life. We're in one of those phases where it's warm, except for the climate crazies running around with their cultural Marxist friends trying to tax us to death to change the weather. I'm still waiting for the volcano tax. If we could just get taxed for volcanoes to stop volcanoes, maybe that would be better. If we just call it for what it is, a volcano tax. Few defectors say Trump was right all along about Venezuela being a narco state. One of the worst narratives about Venezuela's dictatorship revolves around whether the socialist hellhole is a narco state, justifying President Trump's emerging military buildup in the Caribbean, including naval strikes on speedboats transferring state-produced cocaine to the U.S. If the Venezuela state it's a narco state. The Democrat deep state news media complex has been spreading the piece-by-piece narrative that they aren't, which always seems to be the job of the mainstream media now for the past 20 years, is to continually push the globalist narrative wherever they can. And in the States, of course, this is being done by the people who own those large corporations and their connections with globalists. Whereas in Canada, we fund it through our tax dollars, and it's controlled through the Quality Canadian Journalism Organization. And I always like to do a public service announcement on my other channel. I will just show you this quick site. Boom. Qualified Canadian Journalism Organization, which, by the way, funds every employee at every mainstream media organization that uses this, or independents that decide to log on to this, which makes them not independent anymore because it's anywhere between 27 and 30 grand a year that your tax dollars will either go towards incentives or outright money to these media organizations. Fund government propaganda. That's why you can't trust anything they say, because they are controlled by the government, whether they say so or not. Oh no, it's just tax credit. Well, tell you what, 10 years ago, if you went to any journalist and said, "Hey, you're going to be funded by the government," and they'd be like, "No, that's not true journalism." And now most of them are. Let's get back to blazing cat fur. The noxious legacy of Andrea Dworkin. That's not funny. Is that really her? The failure of feminists to disavow Dworkin reveals the movement's extreme misandry. A friend wrote a couple of days ago to say that he had seen shiny new copies of works by feminist author Andrea Dworkin, 1946 to 2005, in Monroe's book, one of Canada's premier independent bookstores. One of the books was positioned on a shelf with the cover facing out to indicate that it was being showcased. And both shocking and unsurprising that Picador Books decided to reprint 3 of Dworkin's texts in the past year, calling her a prescient and visionary writer who was ahead of her time. Anti-male paranoia is sanctioned, cultivated taste more popular now, perhaps, than ever before, and Andrea Dworkin is the most notorious propagandist. Ah, yes, the feminists are going crazy. They're taking over the world. They're bringing out all their words. Homicide. It's always making some people more equal than others in every situation. New rifles on the way for Canadian soldiers as defense spends raise. Oh, yeah? I wonder what kind of weapon they're going to give them. Program intended to replace the entire stock Canadian military's aging assault rifle is being split up. CBC News has learned an internal Department of National Defense presentation references a move to order the first tranche of weapons under the Canadian Modular Assault Rifle Program, CMARP. The commander of the Canadian Army, Lieutenant General Mike Wright, confirmed in an interview that CBC News that the program, which has languished on the books for years, will now proceed with speedy delivery expected from the Canadian manufacturer. Oh, yeah? Well, that's something I'm going to be interested in. I'm wondering what they're going to use. In my first 5.5 years, well, not first 5.5 years, I guess first 3.5 years in the Canadian Armed Forces in the infantry, I was issued the FNC-1 7.62 millimeter rifle. That's about 30 caliber. Uh, about 13 pounds fully loaded to run around. Great stopping power. You go through about 2.5 bodies worth of flesh before the round would stop. And when they brought in the Canadian version of the M16, the C7, and all its different variants initially, we'd already been exposed to that weapon, anyone who trained with the Americans. So we knew it had a related drop in stopping power. And of course, we laughed about it at the range. We would set up our metal plates out at the butts, and we could knock them over with a 7.62, but the 5.56 rounds from the M16s, now they're like ping, 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 come on, knock over. It wouldn't knock over, right? But that's all fine and games, but still pretty deadly weapon. So I'm wondering what caliber this new weapon is going to be. And actually, it says Canadian manufacturers, so that's good to know. But as always, where's the grift? Who's getting their palms greased? Someone always does. Someone always does. Be interesting to look into later. The moral collapse that metal detectors can't fix. We are asking schools to act like prisons because we are raising children who behave like inmates. Yeah. Yeah. Anybody who remember going to school? I always feel like you're going to jail in a sense, just walking in, doing your service, and then walking out. We asked schools to a fight in North Forsyth High School in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, made headlines in recent days because what would have once been a routine scuffle amongst teenage boys turned deadly. It was the last altercation of one boy because a teenager drove a knife into his classmate, causing the wounded boy to stagger away for a few steps before collapsing. He died not long after that. Yes, people do tend to expire in knife fights. Not right away. It's always a bloody thing. It's insane. And of course, this is planned and managed decline. This didn't happen by mistake. Society was not like this before until the cultural Marxists slowly started to put in their rules and remove other laws under whatever reason they would make up, usually for diversity and equity and rights of this and separating people into different classes, and then, of course, applying different rules at different levels. And then you get this. Instead of applying the law properly, like the way it was intended to be, like the way it used to be before the Cold War stopped, because at least we had something to point to. We don't want to be like them. Now we see free speech being threatened and collapsed everywhere. Europe's fury at Trump's criticism is breathtakingly hypocritical. Indeed. The release of Donald Trump's national security strategy has provoked furious reaction from Europe's legacy media and centrist political leaders. One Guardian commentator went so far as to assert that Trump has declared civilizational war on Europe. Well, actually, the elites are panicking. The elites are panicking because they're losing their grip on power. They used to be able to, at least in some form, maintain that grip through the control of the mainstream media and through, well, their bully laws in a sense, and actually having enough wars in between. When the wars stopped, after the threat of war, Cold War stopped, well, then they had to shift. Of course, some of them ended up absorbing a lot of people from the East who knew they didn't want to go back to that ideology. So that was another thing. So then what did they do? The only thing they could do was start to destroy their culture from within through mass immigration. And this is one of the many tools. Now, of course, this hasn't worked fast enough for some of them. So now they are going straight for censoring people and using laws to basically put their political opponents in jail, and not just political opponents now, ideological opponents as well. If you don't think right, if you don't say right, we're going to put you in jail. Like that woman in the UK that was dragged out of her bathtub by 11 coppers for having sent a private text to somebody calling somebody who was a sexual assaulter a faggot. And then the cop showed up at her door and dragged her out. And it's not the only time. And this is the kind of stuff they want to bring to Canada, by the way. Slice by slice. If you don't think so, whatever's happened in the UK usually ends up happening here. Of course, the UK I think, is getting closer and closer to a revolt. Don't go downtown inside Canada's small town homeless catastrophe. Oh my God. Menace, addiction, and human despair have overwhelmed small towns and cities. Some say it's getting worse. Some just want to leave. St. Catharines, Ontario. Gigi and Nick are stoking a fire on the right bank of 12 Mile Creek. It is the sunset hour in St. Catharines, Ontario, but the atmosphere is damp and heavy from a November morning rain. There's not another soul in sight. Down here in the Riverside Parklands, below a street called Gale Crescent, a few blocks east of downtown. For kindling, Gigi has scavenged an armful of twigs and from the municipal shrubbery. She stacks it inside a makeshift hearth of flagstones and tries to get it to catch, but the twigs are wet and will not accept the flame from Nick's pocket lighter. This is the result of liberal insanity running the country. All the homeless camps, we started calling them Trudeauvilles, and now Christmas is coming up. We have more people than ever at the food banks. And the liberals, they giggle. They giggle when people from the opposition bring this up in Parliament. The liberals, I was covering this yesterday on the show. They will talk about saying it's crocodile tears from the members of Parliament. When members of Parliament are bringing up the stories that they are having brought to them, that they're repeating in Parliament to ensure that they are inscribed into Hansard, so anyone can go in there and see. And story after story that is embarrassing the Liberals, the only response that they have is to call the Conservatives out for not supporting their National Socialist policies. They voted against childcare. They voted against free bag lunch for kids at school. They voted against dental care for old people who can't afford food now. So what do you need teeth, right? They voted against this. They voted against that. They're voting a bunch of... That's the job of the opposition, Liberals. That's all they got. That name calling, of course. And, of course, the dirty tricks that they are pulling in committee. And who's helping them along? The Bloc Québécois, who are just a little more far left crazy insane than the Liberals, which is why the Bloc lost seats to the Conservatives and the Liberals last time, because not all Quebecers are as far left maniacal as the Bloc have become when it comes to climate madness and other things. Well, it's the end of the show because we're coming down to the half hour. I'm so glad that all of you came out to watch. I really appreciate all of you people, especially if you watched till the end. Like I said before, leave some comments, you will get an answer. And for those of you visiting Blazing Cat for his site, please come back and visit often to his site and support his site. I also have another show on Saturdays now called Science Fiction Saturdays. We're coming up on our third show tomorrow, where we will be covering author William Forsythe's. And just to give you an idea what the intros are like, we'll show that on the way out, and then we will finish with the Blazing Cat for intro outro, and then we will see you next week on Blazing Cat for Fridays. Thank you all for coming out.
Working.
I am programmed to destroy those life forms which are imperfect. Non-sequitur. Your facts are uncoordinated.